Welcome back to Morning Express. It's now 20 minutes after 7 local time, with 34 days to go before we get to the general elections right here in Kenya. Well, it is time for us to look at the political point. A quick reminder, you are welcome to participate in this conversation. You can do that via social media, and we're going to be going through your tweets and your comments as we continue with the show. We'll also open up the phone lines for you to give us a call and let us know what you think. Let me go straight to introducing the panel that we have here this morning, and joining me to my extreme left, we have Honorable Irungu Kang'ata, who is a member of Parliament for Kiharo. Good morning, thank you for joining us. We have Professor Tumbo, who is a political analyst, and last but not least, we have Evans Wafula, who is also a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning on The Political Point. We'll start with the arbiter, IEBC. Which, of course, has been given a huge responsibility constitutionally to take care of the election. We only have 34 days to go, and it seems like there are still problems. Let me start with you, Evans, on whether you feel IEBC, first of all, is well prepared for them to be good arbiters on 34 days from now.
I think from the beginning, the IEBC has never been prepared for this election. It's engaging in something we can describe as quiet diplomacy when it comes to dealing with political parties. I think many times we've seen IEBC, even Jubilee, for instance, being like a spokesman of IEBC. IEBC has not been able to come out clearly to articulate itself in these issues. Many issues are being raised that are very important as far as this election is concerned. For example, the issue of the printing of the ballot papers. I think we should be asking ourselves where we have come from. Where did the rain start beating us? I think IEBC, from the beginning, from the first ruling on this matter, IEBC had time to put itself in order. And I think what they have been trying to do is that they have been shifting the goalposts. I think this is a creation of their own mistakes.
I'll come back to you, and maybe you can tell us where you think that the rain started beating us. But let me hear from Prof in regards to your thoughts on IEBC being prepared. And again, let's look at it from the aspect that they have literally, as much as they're independent, they've had a lot of interference.
True. First, I would like to say it would not be right to state that IEBC has not done any positive work in preparation for the election. Quite clearly, they have done considerable amount of work. Along the line, they have also made a number of mistakes, including whenever they have been challenged, instead of responding, all right, they have delayed long enough to enable contestants to reply on their behalf. And it's quite common to hear, for example, very senior members of Jubilee defending IEBC against allegations from various quarters. Their major problem, first of all, I do not wish to accuse them of impropriety. The first thing is, I think they are trying, but it's also true that they are being interfered with from literally all sides. They are being harassed by NASA, and they are being manipulated by Jubilee. You know, both of them.
On what grounds would you say they are being manipulated?
Look at it very carefully. Why, if they are not being manipulated, why does Jubilee use opportunities when IEBC is in trouble to answer on behalf of IEBC? It simply means that Jubilee is trying to give the impression that their interest is the same as that of IEBC. This is common sense. Let me finish, Mike. There is an important aspect that we must look at. IEBC communication strategy, machinery, processes have been largely incompetent. This thing I'm calling interference, manipulation, it's largely because of what appears to be poor communication by IEBC in terms of utilizing opportunity to respond appropriately with information on a fact-based approach. Two, the timing of any response they give appears like it is complementary to what either NASA has alleged or what Jubilee has alleged. Three, they tend to concentrate And as they come out in the media, there are people like Commissioner Kombe comes out and spends a lot of time on technical issues. Now, the election is not just about technical issues. It's about, one, managing the emotions of those who are participating. This is about justice. This is about fairness. This is about equal access to opportunities and things like that.
Okay.
So for me, that's the bit I have with them.
All right. Irungu Kang'ata, do you agree that possibly IEBC is being manipulated by Jubilee?
No, the reason why we support or we tend to support IEBC whenever there are various allegations from the opposition is because we are very well prepared for the elections. We do not want any adjournment of the election, but we feel the opposition is just using those antics to cause an adjournment. A good example is like when you're in a football match. You are playing football at the 80th minute, the team A has scored 9 goals against team B. Then team B reasons that it can attack the referee, the game is called off, and maybe there's a rematch from the start. So therefore, team A has to fight and protect the referee to ensure the game is over. Otherwise, it may as well be compelled to do a rematch where its so-called 9 goals will not count. But so to us, the whole essence is to protect the referee to ensure the game goes on.
Why do you feel that you need to protect a referee who is independent, who is, well, constitutionally they're already protected? Why does Jubilee feel that it needs to protect them?
For obvious reason, because we want that elections to be held on time. Otherwise, when you look at what the opposition is doing...
But the Constitution already has that in place. It already takes care of the fact that the elections will be held on the 8th. That's cast in stone. So Jubilee doesn't have to defend them so that they're held. If there's anything that would make them not be held, then it would be a process again which would be tackled constitutionally.
No, there are some key disruptions which can either cause something to happen that may cause that election to be postponed, or that election will not be carried as per the highest standards of a good election. And I'm going to give you a good example. No, I can give you a good example.
Let him finish.
Go on.
I take, for instance, the issue concerning the printing of the ballots. If you delay the printing of the ballots, what happens? It means either you procure another entity that is not going to be fast enough, or you risk maybe asking the government to chip more money to compensate that company that has already been given that work. So therefore, there's going to be some loss on the part of the government, if at all IEBC accedes to some of the demands of the opposition. And that loss is going to be occasioned, number one, by the taxpayer. And currently, Jubilee is the one which is ruling. Its budget is going to be disrupted. And I can give you a good example. Before we went on recess, we were compelled to give IEBC more money. We had what we call a supplementary budget. And when you look at the root cause of that supplementary budget, it's because of these constraints, these emerging issues, which can be traced on the opposition. So the point is, it is to the interest of the Jubilee Party to ensure the process goes as per the timeline that has been set by the Constitution, and also, most importantly, by the amended laws which concern the
although you've not
elections.
mentioned that as much as they should do it on time, then it needs to be done in a transparent manner. Let me hear from you, Evans.
I think Mheshimiwa Kang'ata confirms that IEBC is not independent when he talks that it's in the interest of Jubilee. I think one thing we have seen is that, look at, for example, the use of state resources and state agency in this campaign. This is something IEBC has not come out clearly to even take action. You see, I think even yesterday the European Union observers were very concerned about what's going on in the way we are seeing the government, actually the state, using the provincial administration, using other government agencies in propelling their campaigns.
When we talk about the use of state resources, what exactly are we talking about?
We are talking even in terms of deploying state officers. For example, the provincial administration. You've seen what happened like in Kitui, where the provincial administration was also involved in mobilizing people. I mean, these are some of the things that I think IEBC should come out clearly and say nobody should use state resources, because that also inclines towards corruption.
Mike, Mheshimiwa, with due respect, you know, what you have just detailed is a stereotyped answer that normally comes whenever you're being asked why you are undertaking activities and functions of IBC. It's not an explanation. It is a choreographed answer. The position is very simple, and I think Mike made the point. If IBC is independent, it means it is independent of Jubilee and it's independent of NASA,
or
anybody else. So when you deliberately violate, all right, the independence of IBC, and you put yourself in a position that you are the only ones who have this magic authority to make IBC do the right thing, you know, it is arrogance. It's called political arrogance, whereby you decide that irrespective of what the regulations require, you are the one who tells people the right thing. And if it's not done like that, it's going to violate your benefit, not violate the Constitution. Because the Constitution is clear. Let IBC do its work. There are two things that are endemic in this whole argument. There is a sense of entitlement in Jubilee that they own IBC, that they are the ones who give them money. No, it is Parliament. Parliament is not Jubilee only, it's everybody. There is second thing, there is a sense of feeling that IBC is incompetent. And yet, everybody has said, put these people there, we'll put them there. So, on the one hand, you say, NASA facilitated their appointment, all right? So NASA should not criticize them. Then you say, no, they are very good, but only if they do what we want. It is called on the left, on the right, you're saying this, on the left,
all right,
you're saying that.
Then let's give Honorable Kang'ata an opportunity to respond to that, because your admission that Jubilee would want to have IEBC protected can be misinterpreted to be interference.
No, you see also, you can as well argue the criticism by the opposition against the IBC is a ploy to interfere with the independence of the IBC. If I was to buy your argument, I can as well argue then even the opposition should leave IBC to do its things completely without any form of interference. So the point is, we are also entitled to have what we call timely elections. We in Jubilee are also entitled to have what we call a free and fair elections. We must also ensure timelines are not being breached. And if you were to agree to some of the issues which have been raised by the opposition, I can give you a guarantee we shall not be able to have what we call a free and fair elections come August. And we feel it's a strategy on the part of Raila and his team. He wants to delay the elections, or even if those elections were to be held, he is looking for an excuse to say those elections were shambolic, because he strongly believes he can't. It is very clear he knows he can't win. So he is just looking for an excuse. So the point is, why should we allow him to get that? Because look here, surely, look here. He is the one who forced the original IBC to go. We had no problem with it. Strongly, we clearly say that we have no problem with Hassan. But then again, he caused demonstrations, people died. So we say, surely, you just want these people to go away. We kicked them out. Right. Then another team came in. Then immediately when that team came in, he was the first one now to start raising issues, right, left, and center. And by the way, this commissioner, including the chairman, the chairman was, I think, 1 month before his appointment, he was an ODM member. So I would have thought, by the way, Raila Odinga would be celebrating that purportedly he has his man heading that institution. But look, he is now starting another fight. So clearly we have an opposition that is not intent on facing the population or the populace come August.
All right, let me hear from you, gentlemen, starting with you, Evans, the fact that we've possibly, or it's possible that IEBC has been so politicized to a point where we've lost focus as to whether they are indeed competent. Because we have NASA on one side picking everything which they have a constitutional right to do. We have on the other side Jubilee saying, look, this is a ploy to delay the elections, to a point where now we are concentrating on NASA and Jubilee and forget the referee right here. Are they competent?
I think from the onset, I think the credibility of this election largely depends on how IEBC conducts itself. And that does not only mean how it wants to look at the issues of procurement, for example, the issues of even voter registrar, a lot of issues that people have raised concern about that have not been addressed have really made IEBC to be at the center of this election. I know one thing is that if these elections, the way the elections will go, they will largely depend on IEBC. And that's why at some point we say that it's not about political parties per se. Political parties have a right to question the referee, but it is how the referee wants to conduct the game. If the referee decides that he's going to be biased in the game, then it will stop at its doorstep. So I think whatever happens in this election, it is largely depends on the conduct of the IEBC, which, on my own assessment, it's very much now below the people's expectation.
Prof?
You see, in a football match, the rules by which the referees conduct the match are known. Every time there's been an amendment, like now there is video technology, the stakeholders have all agreed and subscribed to how that technology is going to be applied.
It's going to work and how it will be applied.
Yes. Now, in this particular case, what, in my opinion, has become a problem for IBC is that when they carry out an activity that has a direct bearing on the way the election is going to be conducted, they do not immediately let everybody know that this is the way we have done it, these are our reasons, and this is the...
So going back to the question, does that reflect on their being incompetent? Because one of the things that IEBC should have realized by now is that how they are perceived has huge weight in how the elections would play out. Just by virtue of the fact that they may be perceived to be incompetent, whether it is because they don't communicate well enough, like what you're saying, is that a sign that possibly they're not ready or competent?
IBC has, let me make a rather fundamental comment. When I assessed the IBC that was disbanded, as a team, they were an extremely solid team, solid in terms of knowledge, experience, and having a sense of justice, all right? When you look at this IBC, it has got a few people that have knowledge, experience, and nobody's quite sure in terms of their overall character standing, what they are. So in terms of assessment, in my view, from a point of view of knowledge, experience, and the perception that justice is at the core of this whole exercise, this is a relatively incompetent IBC. Now, you go back to look at IBC in its two wings. There is the board of directors, which is the commissioners, and there is the secretariat.
The secretariat.
Now, these are the workers. In my view, it's my very strong feeling, and I have some evidence, which I'll not divulge here, that the problem is not even at the commissioner level. The problem is in the secretariat. Secretariat, there are departments, some of which have already been held captive. One side by NASA, another department by Jubilee.
But then, Prof, it would be prudent of you to make a statement like that and tell us why you make a statement like that, because that's a very strong statement suggesting that there are people who are already compromised within IEBC.
Look at it. The primary indicators that there are problems related to compromise is suspension. The ICT manager, suspension, procurement manager. What are you saying? That there is disagreement between the board and the secretariat about how IBC business is being conducted.
But you see, without evidence of why there are those dismissals, it could be an issue of an internal audit and seeing that somebody is not competent, maybe non-performance.
Your comments are speculative. And I'm saying...
And that's why I'm saying it is good that if you make a statement like that, you table the evidence.
I have made it based on the fact that if you look at, for example, procurement, all right, related to other activities in other organizations where there is conflict arising out of procurement, it simply means that one side in the secretariat is saying, and that is the side with the commissioners, this is an analytical approach based on the evidence available, that one side allied to the commissioners is saying, come on, why are you not doing what we expect? And there is another side saying, don't worry what they are saying, but you are within your rights to do what you are doing. You know, one of our problems, Mike, is that whenever we analyze information in the political context, whether you believe or not, we attach it to people. We deal with persons rather than analyzing the information on its own.
I think what Professor is trying to say is that the new commissioners have inherited the same structures that supervised the 2013 election with the same problems that were there. So the question is, have the new commissioners been able to deal with the problems at the Secretariat, including the issues of corruption that bedeviled the commission at then? Because you might have come in as new commissioners, but have you gone deep inside to look at the Secretariat, how it was operating? So that, I think, is where I understand the professor is coming.
Actually, I will substantiate, Mike.
Okay.
I have had a chat with the chairman, and initially when he came in, the position was that he's done a preliminary situation assessment, and it is quite clear there were people and channels within the Secretariat who are serving specific interests that made sure the election is not free and fair. And I'm quoting this on air, and we're with Umtata. All right? Now, when you have that kind of private admission, that
from the chairman.
Yes,
from the chairman.
that this was a problem when he arrived, that's what he found. Okay?
That there were people who had interests that would make the elections not free and fair.
Even people who even admitted to him that, Mimi, I cannot stomach so and so. So I had to do this because my team has to win. This is admitted in private, but not in the public.
He's not here to substantiate or defend it. But let me come to you, Irungo Kang'ata. And are you confident that IEBC is ready to handle the election, given all this information that is coming in now?
Well, personally, I have no reason to suspect the contrary. So far, when you look at the timelines which have been set by law, they have all been met. We have what we call the auditing process. Already the voter register has been audited. We also what we call voter roll verification process that has been carried on. Currently, they are now recruiting the various clerks who are going to man the various polling stations. So far, that process is ongoing. So why should I worry?
So as far as
the only worry I have is because of some of the delays or some of the interferences that I've seen, either coming from the civil society, and I strongly believe they are holding brief for the opposition, or the opposition itself. I'm aware of two matters that have been taken to court. The first one regards the issue of voter tallying. I strongly disassociate myself, disagree with the jurisprudence that was churned out regarding that matter, where the court ruled that now we shall have so many returning officers for the presidential elections vote. By the way, that's a good example to show we in Jubilee, we did not subscribe ourselves to that ruling. But then again, you have not gone ahead to file a matter before the Supreme Court. That shows that not everything that is coming out of this entire process is favoring us. But then again, we have to live with it.
Okay.
Number two, we also have this other matter that is pending before the court regarding balloting process. Again, we believe if we continue in such a manner, there is every likelihood then the preparedness of IBC may be compromised, not because of the institution itself, but because of other actors. And finally, to respond to some of the matters that have been raised here, I would have loved the chairman of the IBC to come and corroborate what my colleague here is saying. Otherwise, without any evidence, without mentioning names, who are these people in IBC who are holding brief for the opposition or even for the ruling party? How come they have not been fired? And what efforts are they doing to throw out a free and fair elections? Because if at all, maybe they are installing fake programs, either they are inflating the voter register roll, then those people need to be taken out of the IBC.
All right. Evans, where did the rain start beating us? I want us to wind up on this and move on to something else, because we have other issues that are quite heavy, politically speaking. But where did the rain start hitting us? And do you see a time between now and the 34 days left where IEBC can actually be viewed as a very fair arbiter?
I think in February, if I'm not very wrong, there was a ruling by the court on this issue of ballot tendering. And it was very clear that it was given without following the law. And there was an appeal. I think the IBC had 14 days, I think, to make an appeal. They had to wait until the last day to appeal. But it also appears that IBC had a fixated mind on who the printer will be. Because if you look at the manner in which this printing of ballot paper has been given out, it's very suspect. And I think from that time, I think IBC should have actually realized that, no, there is a lot of public perception, which it really needs to deal with. Look, for example, as early as I think a week ago, what Mheshimiwa is talking about voter verification and stuff like that. People who are dead are being still, you can be able to access somebody who is dead in the register. And such is actually an indication that the register is almost a sham, because you cannot. Because I know personally I checked on somebody who I know is not alive, but I was able to access his details in the current register, which is very, very, very. And the IBC need to come out clearly and actually be able to put that in order.
So do you see a time where they can actually be viewed as a fair arbiter? Or is it too little too late?
It's too little too late.
Okay.
Now, Mike, there is no referee that makes all the correct decisions. In this particular case, in my understanding, the question that I must go back to, which I keep asking, why is it that we are, as a country, incapable of doing the constitutionally mandated things correctly? Why is there this thing that I must pull something from the back, I must do something? Why don't we ever get it right the first time?
The first time round.
Now, there is a challenge here. It is true, IBC has problems. Well, my recommendation is this: let IBC, all right, come out and deal with, let it isolate individual aspects of the electoral process that are key to its success, and say, look, for us, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this, of these 4, 1 has been done completely, fairly, and completely. 2 like that. When they reach 4, if they have a difficulty, then explain to the public. Now, the problem is IBC is behaving like it's an interested party in the outcome of the election. In other words, if you do not, for example, if there is a challenge about that the dead voters were not removed, all right? The idea would have been put the register out there and say,
for people to see.
Can you identify a dead voter? Tell us quickly, we verify whether that person is dead or not. Now, but if you hide that, it means clearly that there is something, you become a suspect. You create an impression. And in general, there is a third thing. When there is a referee, the referee must be seen to have moral authority. If the referee has no moral authority, then you can expect a lot of fouls to be allowed to go throughout the
Continue.
match. Yeah.
All right, I want us now to move on to something else, which is an election agenda, and this is to do with corruption. Let me start with you, Honorable Irungo Kang'ata. Over the campaign trails, especially over the weekend, we had this again coming up, the issue of corruption. And of course, we have the opposition blaming government for wanton corruption that we have seen. The government also coming out through Deputy President William Ruto saying that the opposition is also being bankrolled by cartels. And as long as we continue with this back and forth, we seem not to be finding a solution for corruption. Both parties are not telling us what is it that they're going to do about corruption and how is it going to be dealt with. If we keep blaming each other and saying it's you and it's me, really, we're not dealing with it.
Well, I think the opposition has always tried to give this impression that it is a party that is very corrupt-free. It is a party that has a very good agenda against corruption. But we needed to expose the opposition as it is. Because for sure, there is one individual who has been mentioned adversary in various reports, including some that are before the National Assembly, of his association with grand corruption. That individual is now said to be bankrolling the opposition. And indeed, he has been cited in various meetings of NASA. And there has not been a denial, by the way. In fact, to the best of my recollection, the Chief Communication Officer of NASA, Mr. Salim, has issued a statement defending that individual. So the point is, that individual is said to have obtained his wealth through dubious means, and he's the one now purportedly bankrolling NASA. And therefore, NASA should now not tell Kenyans or lecture Kenyans on matters corruption.
But two wrongs don't make a right. So them not telling Kenyans that does not sort out the corruption that we have. From the government side, what we expect to hear is rather than throw jabs at the opposition and accuse them of ABCD, say, look, they can say whatever they have to say, but this is what we're doing about corruption.
Yes, we are doing, by the way. We have, we can show, we have facts. Number one, we have taken various individuals before the court. Number two, and I think that's a very important point, since Kang'ata era, since Moi era, or even during Kibaki's era, this is the government that has dismissed various cabinet secretaries from posts on allegations of corruption. Even in instances where you have gone to court and been vindicated, you have not been returned to the cabinet. A good example is a person like Ngilu. She was taken to court. She won the court case, but because she has just been mentioned in corruption, she did not come back.
But if we were to go down that road,
we have so many of them. No.
If we were to go down the road of mentioning, we still have very many people in government and very senior positions who have been mentioned.
Give me an example.
There are many.
No, give me an example. No, I can give you so many of them, by the way. In fact, none has been convicted. But the fact that you are mentioned, Uhuru took action. I can give you a good example of a person called Engineer Kamal. He was the CS in charge of roads. He was shown the door. Notwithstanding, he does not have a conviction. We have Ngilu. We have Chilchir. So many of them. No person who has ever been mentioned in any corrupt deal is now currently serving as a cabinet
Not
secretary.
even the deputy president?
Michael, I think we have to be very honest when we discuss this issue of corruption. It's very endemic in this country. It has actually gone into a political, social, and even civil life. Corruption is worse under Jubilee. It is very, very heartening. It is very obvious that even the deputy president has been mentioned in corruption. But one thing that I think we need to face head on, I think, look at the case of Anne Waiguru, for example. I think people who have no political leverage in Jubilee, whether they have been mentioned to be corrupt, they are sacrificial lambs. People who bring corruption proceeds and benefit to Jubilee have been let to go. I mean, you cannot explain, you as a member of parliament, how Waiguru got where she is now. And you're saying that's remarkable. No. Let me finish my point.
I can't allow that to pass.
Let me finish my point.
I can't allow that to pass.
But let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
Let him finish.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. If Jubilee was very serious to tackle corruption, I think Jubilee would have actually cracked the whip on candidates who, within their party, who have any questionable corruption deals, not even to reach where she has reached. So for me, I'm saying is that she is in that position because probably she belongs to a party that looks at it like this is business as usual.
Kang'ata. Surely you can't say that. You see, we are talking about people who have been appointed. Because here we are talking about what action. You see, your question was, what action has the president taken And the president has taken a course of dismissing Anne Waiguru from the cabinet. What else did you expect from
She was not
from the
dismissed.
president?
She resigned
Well,
due to health,
whatever.
due to health
Well, the point
issues
is,
advised by the doctor.
The point is, I can give you, you can take this to the bank, that the president was very clear that he does not want to associate himself with a person who has been mentioned at all in a corrupt deal. And she went
Are they
away.
associating
No,
now?
listen.
Are they associating now?
Listen. Now, if she went now out there, decided to vie, and the people of Kirinyaga, in their wisdom, decided to vote for her as the Jubilee candidate. And no one has gone to court, whether the IBC has not barred her, no one has gone to court to block her from vying. Who are we to block her, surely? Who are we? You see, you must also have this, you must respect the voters' choice, by the way. This notion of people coming here, academicians, arrogating themselves powers to say, you get elected, don't be elected. No, this is the choice of the people. The people of Kirinyaga, in their wisdom, choose Waiguru. Who are we as Jubilee Party to say no? If the people of Kirinyaga felt this is not a good lady, they would have said no, but she was elected. In any event, she has been cleared by the IBC.
All right, Professor.
Actually, the whole debate anchors on moral bankruptcy of the country. The country is completely morally bankrupt. And you see, when Wanjigi is on Jubilee side, he's not a cartel. When he's on other side, he's a cartel. You know, this kind of moral bankruptcy is clearly nonsensical. Two, there is a very important thing. Why, Bwana Kang'ata, why do you choose to eat from the dustbin instead of eating from the table? The dustbin there is theft, all right? The fact that you are not, you are protected, you are not caught, you are not jailed, doesn't mean the country has not incurred losses. So instead of saying, look, in your opinion, if this girl is accused like Waiguru, I don't hold brief for anybody, if she's been accused, in my view, instead of manipulating the system to make sure she doesn't go through due process, all right, you let her go out there and go through like Ngilu did, all right, go through the system and you're cleared. Now, the problem is there are people in our country who believe that food is most enjoyable in the dustbin.
Professor, we need to wind up. I need you to finish so that we wind up.
Where, for example, decency doesn't count, justice doesn't count, fairness doesn't count, and self-protection.
All right, Professor,
look here.
We'll have to wind up. I need you to give us your closing comments, Irungo Kang'ata, on corruption. Is Jubilee doing anything? Your closing comments.
Do we respect the Constitution? Do you respect the constitutional principle of you are innocent until you are proven guilty? So do not per se say that because you have been mentioned adversely in a corrupt deal, then even things like vying, you're not supposed to vie. No. Yes, it is true. The president can kick you out of the cabinet, yes. The president maybe can tell you, don't come near me. But that does not mean, at the end of the day, you don't enjoy the constitutional principle of being innocent until proven guilty.
I think the IBC should just come out clearly and guarantee a free and fair election, because we know very well that this election, as it stands now, I think IBC has not lived up to the people's expectation.
Okay.
Information. IBC give the public the relevant information to enhance confidence.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning for the Political Point. Irungo Kang'ata, Member of Parliament for Kiharo, Professor Tubu, who is a political analyst, and Evans Wafula, who is a journalist, but also a political analyst, joining us this morning on the Political Point. And that's where we wind up this segment of the show. And at this point, we'd like to say goodbye to KTN News, where Life and Style is going to begin. However, right here on KTN News, do stay with us. We've got some news updates coming up. And also, do stand by. We may have a surprise guest that you can listen into, and I guarantee you this is one that you don't want to miss. So do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We'll be right back.